It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Welcome to another episode of You Can Make It. I'm David Farrell, the old fat guy. Today I'm going to make something really great for breakfast. I want to be making bacon cheese scones. Now, bacon cheese scones are not your dainty little scones you have at tea parties with jam on them. This is a hearty, cheesy scone that you can have for breakfast. It's got bacon, it's got a lot of cheese flavor. This is good for a snack, a luncheon, or a meal, and it's really easy to make. So I'm going to show you how. I started off by preheating a fry pan to medium high, and I have 200 grams or 300 milliliters, which is 1 1/4 cups of chopped up bacon. You can also use chopped up ham if you want, but I just find bacon works out better. And you just want to throw that in the pan and brown it up. It's taken about 5 minutes for the bacon to get nice and brown and crispy, as you can see here. Now, I use trimmings off some of my home bacon for the bacon. If you're using store-bought with slices, there'll be a lot more fat. You don't have to worry about a little bit of fat like this, but if there's a lot, pour some of it off. And then we just want to take this bacon out of the fry pan and let it cool down. So we'll just put it back in its bowl here. And we'll just clean up my workspace so that I can go on to the next step. I'll be with you in a moment. Now that the bacon's crisped up, we're ready to start mixing our scones together. As with most scone or biscuit recipes, you start off by putting some dry ingredients together, adding some fat and cutting it in, and then adding some liquid ingredients. If you want a sweet scone, start with the optional 50 milliliters or 1/4 cup of sugar. Then add 212 grams or 400 milliliters of sifted flour, which is about 1 2/3 cups of flour. And then I'm going to add to that 106 grams or 220 milliliters, which is 3/4 cup of whole wheat flour. Again, make sure it's been sifted well if you're using anything other than the weight measure. Now, you can use all white flour if you want, just substitute white flour for it. I just like a touch of whole wheat in my flour. So, what we're going to do from there is we're going to add some baking powder. I have 15 grams or 15 milliliters or 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I have 4 milliliters or 3 grams or 3/4 teaspoon of salt. I have 1/2 gram or 1 milliliter or 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I have 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder, which weighs about 0.4 grams and is about 1/2 milliliter. And I also have a pinch of cayenne, so I'm just going to throw those in. And we're going to stir the dry ingredients together. Make sure you get them well mixed. Just see they're all mixed in there together. Now, to that, I'm going to add some cold butter. Now, I've kept my butter in the fridge because you want it to be cold because it'll cut in better and give you a flakier scone. So what I have here is 91 grams, which is 100 milliliters or 1/2 cup of cold butter. A little scant 1/2 cup. Don't worry about too much if you use a 1/2 cup, but throw that into your flour. And then you can use 2 knives and cut them like this, but it's easier if you can use what they call a pastry blender. So just put the flour in there and start pushing it through the flour, just like that. And what you're looking to do is to get a mixture sort of like a coarse cornmeal. There you go. Now every once in a while you're going to have to push the butter off of the cutter and get back to cutting it in. It's going to take 2 or 3 minutes for me to get it all cut in like cornmeal. Okay, it only took me about 1.5 minutes, but you can see that there's little chunks of butter, but mostly it's sort of a meal type consistency. So just knock any butter off of the pastry blender. So now that you've got your butter added in, now we're going to add the things that are going to give it some flavor in that, which are the bacon we crisped up will be added in. Don't worry about getting a bit of fat in there with it, it won't hurt anything. And with the bacon, I'm also going to put in 140 grams, which is 450 milliliters of grated cheese. That's about 1 1/3 cups of grated cheese. Now, I normally use cheddar, but I don't have any cheddar. And I happen to have in hand some really good, strong flavored Spanish Manchego. So that's what I'm using here, but you can use cheddar. You can use any kind of cheese you like. I love baking with cheese because everything I bake with it comes out Gouda and people just eat them up. Oh, that's terrible, sorry. So I'm just going to put the cheese in, and I'm also going to put in 50 milliliters or about 20 grams of chopped green onions. So we got the cheese, we got the bacon, we got the green onions. We know this is going to taste good. Now you just want to stir them until they're well mixed with the flour. Just like that. Just mix it up until it's quite well blended together. The cheese might stick together a bit. Just break it up. Just like that. Keep stirring until it's well mixed. Now, if you have any big clumps of cheese like that, just break them apart with your fingers. And that looks pretty good. Now, we're going to make a little bit of a well shape in the flour. And we're going to add some liquid ingredients. And what I have to add here is 125 milliliters or 1/2 cup of yogurt. That adds a little bit of tang flavor to the scone. And I'm making a mess, but I usually do. And then I have 150 milliliters or 2/3 of a cup of milk that I'll also add into that well. And I'm just going to wipe up that mess so I don't get in trouble with the better half. There we go. So now that we got the liquid in, you want to slowly start incorporating it into the flour. You're looking to make a little bit of a stiff dough out of it. Now, once it starts to come together, I find there's nothing that replaces good old clean hands. Make sure you've washed them well first. To mix together the last little bit. So just turn it over a couple times to get all the flour out of the bottom mixed in with the liquid. Just like that. And once you've got all the flour mixed in with the liquid, you'll be ready to start shaping your scones. I just got a little bit of loose stuff on the bottom. I'm just going to scrape up and make sure it's mixed in. There we go. So now we've got a nice stiff dough. And it's all mixed together. So what we're going to do is we're going to cook these on a baking pan that I've sprayed with some baking spray. So just turn that stiff dough out onto a baking tray. And then what you want to do is form a disc about 1 inch thick. Just form it up into a nice disc shape. Don't worry about perfection. You just want it to be sort of round. Straighten the edges up a bit. And there we go. Now, I want to get about 8 scones out of this, and we're going to cut them into pie shape. So just give me a moment to wash my hands. Now I'm just going to cut this into 8 pieces just like you would a pizza or a pie or whatever. So I'm just going to use a sharp knife and start by cutting it in half, and then in quarters, and then cut them in eighths. And as you cut each eighth, we're going to pull them apart just a bit so they aren't touching, so they'll brown on all edges. So just take that and pull it out a bit, and take each one and pull it out a bit so that there's some spaces between each scone. There we go. So there's a little bit of space between each of the scones. Now I'm just going to fire these into a 425-degree oven for about 25 minutes. The scones have come out of the oven and they're beautiful golden brown. If you want to really make sure they're cooked, you can put an internal, instant read internal thermometer in them and push it into it. If it reads about 204 to 205, they're perfect. So of course, I want to let them cool down a bit. These have been sitting for about 10 minutes, so they're still just nice and warm. And you have to try one, of course. Let's take a bite of my bacon cheese scone. Absolutely delicious. It's got a touch of sweet from the sugar. The cheese gives it a heavy richness, and the bacon gives it a saltiness that goes with the sweet. This is an absolutely delicious scone. I'd have this anytime and thoroughly enjoy it for breakfast or a snack, and you can make it.
In this episode, David made bacon cheese scones. The ingredients used were 50 milliliters of sugar, which is optional, 400 milliliters of flour, 200 milliliters of whole wheat flour, 15 milliliters of baking powder, 4 milliliters of salt, 1 milliliter of black pepper, 1/4 milliliter of garlic powder, 1 pinch of cayenne, 100 milliliters of butter, 200 grams of bacon, 140 grams of shredded cheese, 50 milliliters of chopped green onion, 125 milliliters of yogurt, and 150 milliliters of milk. For the complete recipe, visit David's blog at oldfatguy.ca. And remember, you can make it.
It's time to make it. Just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Welcome to this episode of You Can Make It with David Farrell. Today, the old fat guy is going to make for you a delicious appetizer, cream cheese shrimp rolls. The beautiful part of this appetizer is not just that they're easy to make, but it's that you can make them in advance. You can make them the day before you want to serve them for your company, and that means you can have more time to rest when the company comes over and to enjoy your company. So let's get right into making this very easy appetizer dish. We're going to start off with 240 grams or 8 ounces by weight of cooked shrimp. Just go to your store and buy some cooked shrimp or buy some raw ones and cook them, but it's important that they are shelled and deveined and just ready to eat. And by the way, do you know where the easiest and best place to buy shrimp is? It's a prawn shop. Don't kill me. Just a little joke there, folks. So what we're going to do is cut these up. Now you want to be careful when you're chopping them, because what you're trying to do is not mince them. You still want them chunky, but you don't want the whole shrimp or your rolls won't come out in good shape. So we're just going to chop these into a coarse chop of shrimp so they're kind of chunky. And it's a little coarse still. We still got some big ones in there, so we'll just give it one more run through with the knife. We're getting there now. Just a nice coarse chop. That's about perfect. Look for any really big ones and cut them in half, but that's pretty good. So once you've got the shrimp chopped up, we're going to make the cream sauce that we're going to put it in. And I just have my stand mixer here. Now you can do this in a bowl with a large fork by hand. It just takes some muscle power. The stand mixer makes it easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 block of cream cheese. Now this is a cup, 250 milliliters, or 1 cup of cream cheese, but if you just buy the block and throw it in, it'll be fine. And then we're going to add some seafood sauce. Now seafood sauce is also known as cocktail sauce. It's a mixture of chili sauce and horseradish and lemon. You can just go to the store and look for it. I'm going to add 50 milliliters or 1/4 cup to the cream cheese. Now, if you like shrimp cocktail, you'll love this dish because all shrimp cocktail is shrimp and cocktail sauce, and that's what we're using. Okay, so we got that in there. Now we're going to put the stand mixer on low and just start to cream that up. And speed it up to a little bit higher and beat until the cocktail sauce is well mixed with the cheese, which should just take a little under a minute. There we are. It looks nice and pink now, but you want to scrape everything down to make sure you get a good mix. So just scrape the batter off of the beater and scrape up from the bottom of the bowl. You'll see there's usually a bit of white cheese that's left in there that's not mixed in. That's why we're scraping it. Here we go. So now we scrape the bowl, we're going to add the shrimp to the cream cheese. Oh, I just see a little bit of scraping I didn't do too well there. Sorry about that. There we go. And we'll add the shrimp in. And we just want to stir this on low until the shrimp's well mixed with the cheese. That's all it takes. Now, we're going to clean up my workstation here, and I'll show you how we put the cream cheese shrimp rolls together in just a second. So I cleaned up my work area, and what I have here is 2 10-inch flour tortillas. Now, you can use any kind of flour tortilla you want. They come in all kinds of different colors. They got yellow ones with some cornmeal in them. They've got green ones with spinach in them, whatever you like. I just chose some that are sun-dried because they got a nice red color that I think goes with the shrimp. But you can use any one you want. And what you want to do is take half of your mixed shrimp and cheese and put it on one of the tortillas. There we go. And then you just want to spread it around to within about 1/4 inch of the edge, 1/2 inch of the edge. It's not that critical. Get a nice even layer. And that looks pretty good. Make sure you don't have any thin spots. And we're kind of set. So now that you've got it rolled around, just bear with me. Okay, now that you got it rolled, now that you've got it spread around, just take a green onion and lay it across the top. Now you just want to roll it around the green onion jelly roll style into a nice shape. And once you've got that done, you want to take some plastic wrap, and you want to wrap this in the plastic wrap because it's going to be in the fridge for at least 2 hours up to a day. And you don't want it drying out. So we'll just roll it, twist the ends like you would for a candy, and I'm going to put that in the fridge for at least 2 hours up to a day. And then I'll show you how to finish off your cream cheese shrimp rolls. So we put our cream cheese shrimp roll in the fridge for a couple hours to set up, and we're just going to unwrap it now. And there it is. Now you just want to cut these floppy ends off the edge, and it's a good chance to give it a try if you want, but we'll just get the other one and let's give it a taste. Shrimp tastes luscious just on its own. When you put some cream cheese with it, it just seems to blend with it so well. It makes it taste really rich. And then the touch of green onion and the horseradish coming through from the seafood sauce is just a touch of horseradish. This is really delicious. But let's see how they look when we slice them up. Now you want to cut this into about 8 sections. So we'll just carefully slice through them. And you'll see they look very nice. People will never believe how easy they are. And there we have 8 cream cheese shrimp rolls. Elegant, delicious, and the best part is you can make it.
In this episode, David made cream cheese shrimp rolls. The ingredients used were 240 grams of cooked shrimp, 250 milliliters of cream cheese, 50 milliliters of seafood sauce, 2 10-inch flour tortillas, and 2 green onions. For the complete recipe, visit David's blog at oldfatguy.ca. As David would say, you can make it.